What we were, you are. What we are, you will be. Probably some ancient emo guy. I don't know. I don't know who really came up with that quote. But man, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, years ago, as a young demigod full of piss and vinegar, you see, I had dreams. I aspired to become the most extraordinary mix of Sherlock Holmes and The Rock in one man. I put myself through university, learning penology, criminological theory, German, binging on sex crimes and serial murder cases. It was part of the course study, not actually what I do. Let's get that correct, okay? Courses in counter bioterrorism and wrestling in my old time because I like choking out dudes and girls. But I'm locking that shit up, Let me get in there, bro. Anyway, I even took, again, back to the German. I took German in the hopes of getting into diplomatic security. So I could get stationed at an embassy and make out with hot German chicks with loose morals. Nearly a decade and a half later, I can inform you that all the above, minus the German, was a colossal waste of my fucking time, as I never got into the job that I wanted. The job I currently work in doesn't stress my intelligence beyond adding and subtracting effectively, and I spend my days trying to prevent my eyes from rolling into my skull while dealing with the slack-jawed individuals I encounter from day to day. Now, this frustration ultimately led to my website, which ultimately led to this video, which ultimately, COVID led to wearing masks and deciding to be fancy about it. But, if you're gonna wear the damn thing, you might as well wear something nice. Am I right or wrong? Get fancy with it. But I needed something to do to remove the mold of dumbing forming in my mind as being around people and professions that gave me no stimulation and actively sought to make me, quote, toe the line. I'm not a line tower, man. I come from a family who either gets shit done or we get our heads chopped off, historically speaking. True story. I'm a rebellious bastard. So, not for nothing, their attempts are foolhardy. And today, you know what? I decided to resurrect one of the original series from my former site, one that I shut down because I tried to get along and that backfired on me. The execution and torture blogs that I used to call Danse Macabre, or the Dance of Death. Now, I did these because I wanted to cover all the public execution methods that were out there in the world from, time immemorial up to the present day. I mean, a lot of them too, I did. This one that you're about to hear, I did seppuku, I did hanging. Hanging I actually thought was going to be pretty fucking boring. Turns out it's not. Turns out there's a very, very, very unique ways of getting your neck fucking popped the fuck off. Very interesting. I might bring it back. That'll be up to y'all though. But here's the deal. This ain't gonna be soft material, okay? And so for those of you that lack strong intestinal fortitude, granted, this is gonna be on YouTube. I can't show everything. But I will describe it, so have fun with that. Just make sure you don't puke on your own dicks. And if you happen to be reading this on my site or listening to me in here. So this is your fair warning. Try not to get grossed out or grow a pair. So anyway, leading the charge into this series that I might bring back or might not is an ancient Persian method called Scaphism, or the boats. Now before we get into the details, there's some backstory to cover here. So I need you to get a healthy drink. Got mine. See that? Got it. Now, doesn't quite work, but we got it. And let old Tano tell you how shit rolled in 400 BC. In the year 404 BC, the king Persian king Darius II became ill, and he was close to cashing in his chips. Yeah, in the game of life, it's time to check out, buddy. It's time to go. So he called to his sons, Artaxerxes II and Cyrus the Younger, to attend his bedside to choose a successor. Now, by all accounts that I've come across, it seems Cyrus was the most interesting one of the two brothers. And I'll point out why soon. But looking at Artaxerxes, or I'm going to start calling him Artie, I'm going to be honest with you. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot said about the man in his early years, except for a blurb taken by Plutarch. Quote, Cyrus in his earliest youth showed something of a headstrong and vehement character. Artaxerxes, on the other hand, was gentler in everything and a nature more yielding and soft in his actions. You may see of nature more yielding as a good thing, but any follower in the ways of Grimskull would immediately identify Artie, like I said, he's Artie now, keep the fuck up, as a quivering half-fucked pussy who was probably getting stuffed into a locker by his younger brothers and pegged out by Spartan women after they beat his ass in wrestling. Just fucking slamming that ass. It's gotta get in there. Now, I know that sounds like a fun time for some of you freaks out there, but I doubt he was into it. Spartan women are notoriously aggressive broads, and dildos made of wood can splinter. Just so you know. Now, I've gotten the standard moment of depravity out of the way, which is famous in my works in daily speech. Here's what Xenophon of Athens had to say about Cyrus. Quote, in the courtly training, Cyrus earned a double reputation. First, he was held to be a paragon of modesty among his fellows, rendering an obedience to his elders that exceeded that of many of his inferiors. And next, he bore away the palm for skill in horsemanship and for love of the animal itself, nor less in matters of war in the use of the bow and the javelin was he held by men in general to be at once the aptest of learners and the most eager practitioner. As soon as his age permitted, the same preeminence showed itself in its fondness for the chase, not without a particular appetite for perilous adventure in facing the wild beasts themselves. You know what? Once, a bear made a furious rush at him. Yes, motherfuckers, a bear. And without wincing, he grappled with her and was pulled from his horse, receiving wounds, the scars of which were visible throughout life. But in the end, he slew the creature, and nor did he forget him who first gave him to his aid, but made him enviable in the eyes of many. It should be noted that Xenophon fought along Cyrus and by all accounts considered him to be one of the noblest and most brutal ass kissers. I just said ass kissers. Most brutal ass kickers. I mean, maybe Xenophon's kissing his ass a little bit. Maybe a little bit. He'd ever come across. Now, while Artie probably spent his time jerking off the cuneiform furry drawings on the wall somewhere and, making his mother wish she'd swallowed on the night that he was conceived, Cyrus was out cracking a cold one with the boys, wrestling wild animals for fun, and deadlifting some Persian mother-daughter-sister combo with his cock just to get in a little cardio. In terms of classical manliness, Cyrus was the bro of bros and gave the impressions of a man who would have no problem taking off your head, but he'd much rather buy you a flagon of wine and get smashed while you both passed out on the softest of Persian titties at the local drinking hole. More from Xenophon. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of quotes today, by the way. Just so you know. It's a lot of them. Quote, after he had been set down by his father to be satrap of Lydia and great Phagira, that's a weird word, Phryge. I'm not gonna pronounce it again because it sounds like something else. And Cappadocia, fuck it, and have been appointed general of the forces. whose business it is to muster in the plains of the Castellos. Nothing was more noticeable than his conduct than the importance which he attached to the faithful fulfillment of every treaty and compact and undertaking entered into with others. He would tell no lies to anyone. Thus, doubtlessly, it was that he won the confidence of individuals and the communities entrusted to his care. Or in case of hostility, a treaty made with Cyrus was a guaranteed sufficient to the combatant that he would suffer nothing contrary in his terms. Therefore, in the war with Tissaphernes, these are some weird ass goddamn names. You guys had some bad names back in the day. Some of them are decent. Some of these are just wild. All the states of their own accord chose Cyrus instead of Tissa. I'm calling him Tissa. Except only the men of Miletus. And these were only alienated through fear of him because he refused to abandon their exiled citizens. His deeds and words bore empathetic witness to his principles. Even when they were weakened in number or in fortune, he would never abandon those who had once become his friends. He made no secret of his endeavor to outdo his friends or foes alike in the reciprocity of conduct. The prayer that has been attributed to him, God, I may live long enough to recompense my friends and requite my foes with a strong arm. End quote. Never mind. Quote number 2. I forgot. Sorry. Told you. A lot of quotes, didn't I? Many were the gifts bestowed on him. For many and diverse reasons, no one man, perhaps, ever received more. No one, indeed, was ever more ready to bestow them upon others with an eye ever to the taste of each, to gratify what he saw as to be the individual requirement. Many of these presents were sent to him to serve as personal adornments of the body or of battle. And as touching these, he would say, how am I to deck myself out in all these? To my mind, a man's chief ornament is the adornment of noble, adorned friends. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. Give me a hug. That's pretty much what this sounds like. Sounds like some Pikachu shit. But whatever, we're gonna go with it. I like Cyrus. He's alright. Where we at? Indeed, that he should triumph over his friends in the significant matters of well-doing is not surprising, seeing that he was much more powerful than they. But that he should go beyond them in minute attention and in an eager desire to give pleasure seems to me, I must confess, more admirable. Frequently, when he had tasted some specially excellent wine, he would send the remaining flagon to some friends with a message to say, Cyrus says this is the best wine he has tasted in a long time. That is his excuse for sending it to you. Damn, man, this dude was cool as shit. I don't have friends like this, man. They take my fucking shit and just fuck off. It's kind of depressing. A little bit. Sadness. Anyway, I'm actually saving space. I lost my space just by doing that. He hopes you will drink it up with a choice party of friends. Or perhaps he will send the remainder of the dish of geese, half loaves of bread, and so forth, the bearer being instructed to say, this is Cyrus's favorite dish. I hope that you will taste it yourself. Or perhaps there was a great dearth of provender when, through the number of his servants and own careful forethought, he was enabled to get supplies for himself. At such times, he would send to his friends in different parts, bidding them feed their horses on his hay, since it would not do for the horses that carried his friends to go starving. Then on any long march or expedition, when the crowd of lookers-on would be enormous, he would call to his friends and entertain them with serious talk, as much as to say, these I delight in honoring. End quote. Bro of fucking bros. I think there's something telling that the Greeks had more to say about Cyrus than Artaxerxes. But as we all know, life is not fair. and the best man will often get fucked over by the lesser man because real men are out there making shit happen, but bitch made dudes get to hang out with the king, or the boss at your job and take a wild guess who's in their fucking ear all damn day. Sycophants, ass kissers, they gonna sycophant. That's what it is. They're going. You're out there fighting battles. This guy's up in here kissing ass. The guy kissing ass is probably gonna win out. Sorry to tell you. Cyrus was out of town at the time of the deathbed assembly, walking around with a manly strut and letting rebels know that Cyrus 316 was here to whoop some ass. Despite the pleas of their mother, Persiatis, to put a real man on the Persian throne, stating Cyrus had a stronger claim to it as he was born when Darius was king, as opposed to Artaxerxes, who was born when Darius was just some no-name bitch prince. It went unheeded. Darius II, who was likely nagged to death by this broad at some point in life, decided to opt for the big fuck you bitch and made Artaxerxes II his successor. This is what happens when your mom gets too much in the shit. The guy just don't want to hear it. Like, yo, I'm dying. Shut your fucking mouth. Well, she probably fucked it over. Again, it should be noted that this was his firstborn, and outside of my jokes, because most of this is jokes, let's be honest, he may have actually been the right choice from his father's perspective. But Perry and Cyrus, they damn sure didn't see it that way. And Cyrus wasn't about to sit around and have his brother take what he felt was rightfully his. So initially he plotted to have his brother assassinated. But then he was snitched out and arrested. His mother managed to get him out of it, and he was pardoned and sent back to his governance in Lydia. But see, that didn't do a fucking thing except piss him the fuck off even more. He wasn't having it. His resentment for this arrest made him just eagerly more desirous of the kingdom than ever before. So this brings us to the Battle of Cunaxa. 3 years later, in 401 BC, Cyrus gathered some of the finest ass kickers in the kingdom, in the empire, including Xenophon's 10,000 troops. I mean, that's a story unto itself. We're not going to tell it right now, though. And set out to take the throne of Persia. Cyrus and Ardes' army engaged in final combat at the Battle of Cunaxa. And tactically, Cyrus was ripping up the battlefield as the Greeks scattered Ardes' forces at least twice. Despite that, the conflict was taking forever, with no signs of abating without massive losses. So knowing that the imperial troops would surrender with the loss of their king, and confident that he had victory in hand, he made a charge through the king's guard towards old Arde. Cyrus, being made elate with victory and full of confidence and force, passed through the enemy lines, crying out, and that more than once in the Persian language, "Clear the way, villains, clear the motherfucking way." He didn't say motherfucker. He might have. He's in the middle of a battle. He might have. I'm reading a quote right now. So there. Which they did indeed, throwing themselves down at his feet. These guys just moved the fuck out the way. The troops are like, want none of it. Hit it. But Cyrus's tiara dropped off his head, and a young Persian by the name Mithridates, running by, struck a dart into one of his temples near his eye. Not knowing who he was, out of which wound, much blood gushed, so that Cyrus, swooning and senseless, fell from his horse. Plutarch, Light of Artaxerxes. Cyrus, the greatest man, the baddest motherfucker in the empire, was taken down by a random dude who probably woke up 40 minutes late, scrambled his half-naked ass to the battlefield, and wasn't paying attention to who the fuck he was throwing his spear at, but was just trying to get a participation trophy. Life ain't fair. I'm just saying. All the other guards took a knee, but Mithridates saw greatness riding past him couldn't comprehend what the fuck that was, and did what most dumbasses do. Let out a battle cry of fucking Ree! And destroy the hardest motherfucker Persia had at the time. Now, allegedly, some eunuchs tried to get Cyrus to safety, but he was also hit in the leg and fell headfirst into a rock, finishing him off. I couldn't find the citation for that part. I mean, I read it, but I couldn't really track down the sources, so I'm not sure how accurate that is. And obviously, this being so damn old, no one really fucking knows. But we know Mithridates was the one to strike the mortal blow. Now, jokes aside, Mithridates did the job he was fucking paid for. And he did it well. Cyrus was dead, and Artaxerxes' reign was secure, much to Artie's delight. Mithridates was richly rewarded by his grateful monarch, but Artie did have one request. One little teensy weensy little request. He told Mithridates that it was his wish that people were told that he, Artaxerxes, put Cyrus into the ground and that he was the ultimate heavyweight champion of the fucking world, undisputed. Oh yeah! I am the cream. Now see, I told you Artie was a little scummy motherfucker, didn't I? I told you that. I told you. Fucking sperm burping bitch made cocksucker. Cack. Moving on. Myth agreed with the king's wish and went about his time getting high and fucking the pain away with the best sluts gold could buy, as he had plenty of it now. But you know, not everyone bought Artaxerxes' story, particularly his mother. Obviously not happy with her favorite son getting, dead as fuck. She sent a eunuch, or a few eunuch spies, out to fish up what really happened. Find out what really went down, because I don't think this little fluffy motherfucker right here could have took down my boy. Couldn't take down Stone Cold Steve Austin. The fuck? So they learned of Mithridates, and they invited him to a banquet, got him wasted, because cats like to talk when they get wasted. And yet again, he goes full retard, telling everyone he killed Cyrus. The king just told this motherfucker not to do that. And the king just told everybody at the damn banquet that he was responsible. The boss has already said, I killed my brother, I'm good. And this dude's about to fuck up. Quote, Mithridates, also, within a short time after, miserably perished from a like folly for being invited to a feast where the eunuchs both of the king and the queen mother. He came arrayed in the dress. Shit got my eye. Pop. Came arrayed in the dress and the golden ornaments which he had received from the king. After they began to drink, the eunuch that was the greatest in power with Persia thus spoke to him. A magnificent dress indeed, old Mithridates. Is this what the king has given you? The chains and the bracelet and that nice ass fucking car you got there. What's that, bro? The fucking, what was that, a BMW 300? What you got? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have that shit. They had camels. Get a camel with some rims on it. And your scimitar, your sword of invaluable worth. How happy has he made you, the object of every eye. To whom he, being a little overcome with the wine, a little tipsy, little tippy tip, this Mithridates talking now, replied, What are these things, Sparmesus? Sure I am. I showed myself to the king on that day of trial to be one deserving, and costlier gifts than these. Motherfucker ain't paying me shit. You owe me more. You know what I've done in this fucking place? You owe me, dog. This ain't shit. This horse, this sword, this fucking dildo, fuck. This bitch shit. At which Sparmeses, smiling, said, I do not grudge them to you, Mithridates. But since the Grecans tell us that wine and truth go together, let me hear now, my friend, what glorious and mighty matter was it to find some trappings that had slipped off a horse and to bring them to the king? Like, in other words, the fuck you mean, man? Well, tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Woo. And this he spoke, not as ignorant of the truth, but desiring to unbosom him to the company, irritating the vanity of the man. This guy, this eunuch, this no dick, he knows this fucker's lying, but he can't prove it yet. He needs him to talk. He needs him to say it. Like in front of the whole crowd. Just say this shit, dog. Say it. Feel the force inside you. Like, come to the dark side. So, I just lost my space. You gotta give me a second. This is the problem with doing this shit live. I gotta find a space. Where was I? God damn, I lost my shit again. Here we go. And then he spoke, not so ignorant of the truth, who drink had now made eager to talk and incapable of controlling himself. So he forebore nothing, but set out, talk you what you please of horse trappings and such trifles. I declare to you explicitly that this motherfucking hand right here, was the death of Cyrus. Fucking put the people elbow in that motherfucker. For I threw not my dart as Artaxerxes did. Wait, what? For I threw not my dart as Artaxerxes. You gotta understand, these old fucking ass quotes. Sometimes I write them and don't read them. In vain and not to purpose, but only just missing his eye and hitting him right in the temple and piercing him through. I brought him to the ground, and of that wound he died. The rest of the company who saw the end, because by this point everybody's like, bruh. Just think, that's the thing. Think of it. A whole courtroom, a whole party just heard this dude call the emperor a liar. Everybody just let out a unified bruh. The rest of the company who saw the end and the hapless fate of Mithridates, as if it were already completed, just bowed their heads to the ground, and he who entertained them said, Mithridates, my friend, let us eat and drink now, revering the fortune of our prince, and let us waive discourse that is too weighty for us. They knew this dude was done. It was a wrap. They like, you know what? Drink your drink, dog. Have fun with that shit. Artaxerxes was fucking livid. He was the joke of the empire. Everyone saw him for the lame that he was, and his brother's reputation was still shitting on him from beyond the grave. Fortunately, if you can't be respected, you can be feared. So to remind the peasantry that, while he was a cunt, he was still a cunt with power, he decided to execute the shit out of Mithridates. Our dumb-ass hero, now a zero, was sentenced to death by Scaphism. Yes, kids, we have finally now, after all this time, gotten into the point. This was a two-piecer, baby. You learned some Persian history, and now you're gonna learn execution. So, Scaphism. Scaphism is... I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Mithridates was placed on his back inside of a boat. I don't think I really have anything to represent a boat for you. We'll do hands. Boat number 1. And another boat was placed over him with holes. Finger bag. Yeah, girl, yeah. With holes for the head, the arms, and the legs. So effectively, this is sticking out, your legs are sticking out, but the rest of it's covering your body. You're stuck in between. Given the Persian Empire location, they had his ass out in the desert, sunbaking as well. He was offered food to eat, and if he refused it, they'd poke the hell out of his eyes until he did. Afterwards, they'd pour milk and honey down his throat and all over his face. Eventually, flies would be all over his face, chowing down and shitting in his mouth and his eyes. That's not the best part. No, take a wild guess at what happens. Take a wild guess. My Tengu chin is waiting. What happens when all that milk and honey, such bounty, such tasty bounty, has to come out, and you're stuck in a boat coffin? Oh yeah. Diarrhea of epic proportions. This shit was squirting out, blotting out the motherfucking sun. Those bitches out in Nazino, they would greatly fucking approve. The man would be covered in his own urine and feces, pouring out of the holes of the boat and attracting more insects to chow down and make baby little maggots just in that sweet butt butter. It's good stuff. The insects ate Mithridates from the outside and likely entering into his asshole, his dick, and whatever the hole they could find, devoured his insides while he lived and felt them squirming and biting inside of him. The force feeding was repeated every day until he finally died 17 days later. When they popped the boat open, they found most of the man covered in shit and maggots with his innards exposed. Fucking metal. Ultimately, Artaxerxes would go on to build some buildings, collect about 350 wives, and who output about 115 sons. Have the Greeks give him the most boring epithet of Memna, which means remembering or having a good memory. I mean, that's really about all that's about all the good they could say about the guy. That's really all I could find about him. He's really sharp. He's good at that reading, that memory shit. He knows your birthday. That's fucking something. I got my goal. They particularly busted nuts in their armor about how awesomely manly Cyrus was. But in regards to Artie, it was, they didn't have much to say about the guy. They were just like, man, fuck him. Fucking Greeks are hardcore shit. They really don't give a shit. Oh, but he was the grandparent of Darius III, who was the last of the Achaemenid Empire kings, and the king that got his ass kicked by Alexander the Great. So who knows? Maybe, just maybe, Cyrus reincarnated into Alexander and came back to finish the ass whooping that Cyrus started, and he just did it through Alexander. Took out fucking Darius III. I mean, unlikely, but if you're a fan of reincarnation, who knows? Maybe. I don't know how reincarnation works. I just like to think it'd be a fun thought. So, you basically got a 2-in-1 art on a 2-in-1 video today. You got some military history and you got some scat porn. You're welcome. I'm sure you were looking forward to that over the course of your day. I know you were waiting for me to talk about poop. Anyway, hang in there. I figured we'd try something new today. I know you normally looking at like a static picture. So I figured I'd have a little fun. So anyway, fuck you. Pay me. I'm out.